Welcome back to another ACN mix slash mastering tutorial. I'm ACN. Today I want to look at what we did to a song that I recently just put out with a good friend named Zach Mix. And we had the opportunity to work together. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great singer. And he allowed me to be part of this project, which is a old song, probably an old hymn from back in the day, and I had the opportunity to sing some harmonies with him, do some music, and mix and master. So I want to look at the plugin chain that we chose for the mastering, and how did we get the volume, what's the EQ curves, and what's the compressor, or the compressors that we chose for this. Not going to take too much time from you today, but if you're struggling with mastering a song, this can be a good start for you to get some ideas, and then you can come up pretty much with your own preferences and how you like to use a certain setup and build in the sound yourself. So don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment. And maybe there's other mixed tutorials you like to see that you recommend for me to do for you. I would gladly do that. So regardless of that, let's get straight into this mastering session and see what's going on here, see what it sounds like with all our plugins on, and take a listen to it real quick. Here we go.
You are the joy of my salvation. You're the peace in my storm. Your love and arms protect me, shelter me from harm.
That boy could sing. Good job, Zach. I know you're watching. However, great job once again, and the whole song came out amazing. So it's not so simple to say it's simple. It's about knowing how to put it all together. And one of the first things I do when mastering is I always listen to the song in context with the stereo track on the one that's inside, the mastering session, and I'll listen to it and I'll say, what does the song need and what does it don't need? Sometimes you need to know when to dive in and when not. Some songs are needed to dive in from different direction, from left, right, and forward and backwards and do a flip, whatever it takes to get the song. But sometimes the mix is so good that you don't have to dive in with so much EQ curves and so much compressions and using big limiters and different 100 kinds of limiters. You could just use one. You can do a nice master with 2 or 3 plugins if you do it right. So in here, I got 6 plugins that are enabled, and I got 3 that are disabled that I'm not using. Usually I have more that are just there and they're usually disabled, and I'll just go back and forth choosing the one I like. So not to take too much time from you today, let's see where we're starting off. I'm going to shut down the plugins that we used and go through them one at a time and explain as fast as we can. So let's take a listen without all the processing. You can barely hear it.
You are the joy of my salvation. You're the peace in my storm.
So when you bounce it out from mastering, from mixing, you want to gain stage. See, once it's up here, which you can go into your mixing session and go to your mix bus and bring down some volume, and that would show how low did you bring it in the waveform over here. If not, which I recommend to send everything to your mastering session dry, nothing on the mix bus or the master. If you had anything on there, because some people like to put a little compression or EQ on their mix bus, take all that off. Not unless you want that sound in your master. That's your preference. I usually just take everything off and send it here into the mastering chain to do everything manually in the session that we're about to master the song. So if the volume is too much or the gain is too much, you can always bring it down. Watch this. Bring down some volume from here. But I didn't really mess with it too much. This is the volume I chose where it's at. So let's look. I don't add plugins on the main track, just throwing that out there. because everything is going to be bounced out from Mixbus anyway, so I might as well, and I've seen some of the greats do this as well when learning back in the day how to master a song. So let's look real quick. Do we add EQ? What do we add first? I add a limiter. This is, what's the name of this plugin? This is the L2 from Waves plugins. Waves has a great selection of plugins, and they actually have other limiters, and they're amazing. I chose this one because, for me, this one is not that aggressive, and it gives the character I'm looking for. Remember, choose a plugin, not because you have it and it's great and this one is popular. No, use the one that your preference that you think goes well for your song, mix, or master. So let's see what it's doing here. The ceiling. What's a ceiling? The ceiling is literally a ceiling, like at the bottom of the roof of your house, and so much volume goes through it that it hits the ceiling that it doesn't peak. So this will control the peaks, all the dynamics, keep everything at a certain level so they don't go through the roof, literally. And I'm bringing it down at 3.5 dB and boosting with the threshold at 10 dB. And this is what it sounds like, bypassed, and we will enable edit as well.
You are the joy of my salvation.
So you can see how it brought some volume, not just volume, but character. Now I could bring this down, but when I do that, I'll bring down the threshold, but it's gonna hit and squash everything into the ceiling, and I'm gonna lose my drums when I do that because this song is doing that for some reason, and that's not the sound I'm looking for. And plus, I don't wanna strive on one plugin. I don't want one plugin to be the main guy doing everything. So the next plugin that I chose on there was this FG Comp by Slate Digital, and this is not just a compressor, but it also acts as a limiter. Would bring in some gain and all the details. You could choose from punch and detail, how much detail you want. I left it in the middle. I chose over here a slow attack. We'll call it at about we'll call it about 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And I chose almost at 4 o'clock release. You can say, because the faster release brings out the transients, but the slow attack, if I was to bring it fast, I'll lose the punch of the drums. And when I chose the slow attack, that gives me more snare, that gives me more punch, bringing out more of the ghost notes, you can say, or the instruments that are not shining so well in the mix. This brings them out. And here's, if I was using this one over here, which is the SSL compressor or bus compressor, which is that's sitting on a parallel bus, by the way. I even have it set there, right there at a slow attack. It's that's just always been the setting for me. I get more punch that way with a faster release. So going back there, let's enable it, see what it sounds like.
Joy of my salvation, you're the peace in my storm.
So you can see right away the detail that came out of it. It got more punch, it got more smack, and it gave more volume, but to a smoother place, not anything too dramatic. We don't want volume to go through the roof where, wow, it's so loud, and that's what you're seeking. Well, that's what you'll get. But we want this track to be heard, not to overdrive people's speakers in their cars and trucks and at home and causing problems and making a fire. Well, that won't happen. But regardless of that, we want a good clarity, a good volume where it's smooth, not breaking our ears off our head. So that's what this plugin is doing. Let's take a look at what I'm doing next. Everybody puts a stereo spread. To be honest with you, when people ask me, what's your stereo image? And yeah, well, guess what? I use this. I use this big plugin right here, which this has a limiter, this has a compressor, it has EQ, it even has tape equalizer on it, and gives you that warm quality of tape. This is Abbey Road's TG mastering chain. This thing right here, this amazing person, character, all what it is you want in life can do it just in one plugin. But I'm not doing much with it. I'm literally just boosting 1 dB of some 8K, and I think that's it. I may have made a mistake and turned the knob to the left at the 500, but I'm not cutting anything. I'm using it for the spreader at about 2.5. dB boosting it, because it's just something about the spreader on here. It gives it more. It takes away that digital harshness of the digital spreaders and the other plugins. Not that they're bad, it's just sometimes, I'll be honest with you, I'm not into the digital sound, even though I'm working all digital with plugins in the box, but you get this warm sound using these emulations, and this thing exists. This thing is in Abbey Road Studios in London. And you can actually go on YouTube and check it out. And I think you can even watch how they made this thing. So this is in waves, by the way, and I'm just using the stereo spread on here. Everything else is literally not doing anything. It's all been disabled. And we're gonna turn that on for the stereo spread. After that, I got this tape emulation, which is a virtual tape machine by Slate Digital. Let's see what's that doing. We're gonna leave it enabled, and then we're gonna leave it disabled and enable it as we're going along.
You are the joy of my salvation. You're the peace in my storm.
You could instantly hear what this tape machine is doing. It didn't just bring a volume up. What it done was it brought some type of color because of the output and the input, which are chained together. That means if I move one, they're both gonna move. And I was hitting over 5 dB of I guess tape volume, and it's doing a great job. So look at the settings and all what's going on over here. That's what I chose, and I think this is just the natural setting it comes with at Protocol, and it sounds great. So this is a plugin, a tape machine that I personally like. Not that the other ones aren't good. I chose this one. It is a little bit more smoother, and that's the sound I'm looking for, and it sounds amazing. You can go in Waves and other companies that have these amazing, amazing tape machine emulations that literally sound almost pretty much the same thing. I chose this one for this mix or for this master. Let's look at the compression, what I'm doing here with the FG Red. Let's see what's going on here real quick.
You are the joy of my salvation. You're the peace in my storm.
So here's the thing. It's barely hitting 1 dB of compression, and it goes over a little bit 1 dB. It's not even hitting 2 dB, and it's doing something. It's giving a small, tight little glue to everything. But even though she's not doing much, believe it or not, she's doing something. It's always doing something. And what I love about this plugin, or any plugin, especially, let me show you, because I want to explain something real quick about because I'm using the spreader for this one. So I'm gonna explain with the TG mastering chain, and to make more sense with this one. Even though this thing is not doing nothing, and just because everything is disabled, we have just the stereo spread. It's going through it, and it's giving us quality. And we're not doing anything. It's just giving us some quality. It's giving us some good vibes. Same thing's happening with this FG Red compressor. So it's bringing a slight glue. It's bringing a slight warmth. I brought down the volume not to blow up the plugin a little bit. And what's this? We have on the attack pretty much a medium attack, a medium release. She's with the threshold. Look at that, 1.5 ratio, barely doing anything. The drive is medium. The mix is on at 100, and no high pass filtering going on there, but it sounds great. Let's take a look at the EQ. And also, when you are doing anything, whether a mix or a master, especially in mastering, you know what? I'll explain. Since this is a mastering tutorial, I'll explain about how important it is to watch out from EQs and compressions, because if you had a lot of EQs and compressions built in your song, no matter how thin they sound or how much you drove that EQ, especially you're using parametric EQs like APIs and Neves and SSL EQs, those things drive hard. So, ask yourself the question, do I dive in with an EQ? Do I do certain curves And I don't use, me personally, I don't think it's been a while since I chose a parametric, which is a 4-band EQ or a 3-band EQ in console style, like on a console. And you don't even see that on here. It's nowhere on here because it has so much drive. We already used it on our mix that I don't really want to use it in the master. We already did that. So believe it or not, you're looking at all these EQ curves right now, and you're probably saying, wow, this guy is saying don't do too much EQ. But at the end of the day, this is more of a smoother style EQ. It doesn't have a lot of drive the way you think it does compared to an SSL, API, Neve, or whatever console style EQ you're using. It's actually slight smoother than that. And that's the sound we're looking for in a master. So let's take a listen. Let's see what we're doing. Let's turn it on real quick. We have a high pass filter. I am cutting in the rumble area. All this rumble. I am cutting 36 hertz of that rumble. And I am boosting in the lows. So we're going to start from the bottom to the top. I'm boosting 60 hertz at 3 dB. In the right next to it, I'm boosting 200 hertz. Very, very gently. It's minus 87, and that just brings some body to the song. That's where the kick will be more punchier. That's where the vocal will get some good vibes from it. And remember, the old cutting trick, we're gonna cut in the 4 and 5s and 300s and just cut that out, and it sounds amazing. Yeah, you're right. If you got a bad mix and you got a bad vocal and you got a bad snare, you don't gotta cut so much. Don't cut to the point that you lose body, because this is where you lose the body. But I'm cutting 1 dB of almost 500. It's literally at 457 in the low mids. And that's just giving us some, what that actually does is when you bring that down a little bit, when in the mastering, I'll say anyhow, it brings like a slight glue where it kind of just brings everything together for me. And believe it or not, even though it's 1 dB, I'm cutting 1 dB of it, it's doing a lot. I don't suggest, especially in the mastering, to cut a whole lot because you want to boost more, because that's kind of the whole key here. You're trying to get some shape. Also, to get more punch in the high mids, we're boosting, we'll call it almost 4 dB, a little over 3.5, but 4 dB of 3.5K. We're boosting 1.5 dB. Sorry about that. And that's where we're gonna attack the beater of the kick. The kick is gonna get more punch. The snare is gonna get more snap to it. The harmonies are gonna be more clarified. You're gonna hear those things that need to poke out more in the mix. And we are bringing with a final shine some 9.5K over 4 dB. Boosting it in a shelf, not a bell, in a shelf. That's where we get a little bit more air. And believe it or not, when you boost in a shelf on your EQ, there's a little bit spread there. You get more of like a certain stereo image spread. It's an old trick I've seen many years ago, and it works well. Now, just because it looks like a lot's going on, you notice there's barely anything going on. It's 1.5 dB. Cutting 1.5 dB. Boosting not even 1 dB. I think we got more lows that are boosted and the highs, which is the main two areas that needed to be boosted. And you know what? If the mix didn't need EQ, or the master didn't EQ, I wouldn't even EQ it. So let's hear what it sounds like with it on. We'll enable it as the mix is going.
You are the joy of my salvation. You're the peace in my soul. Your love.
Sounds great. It's not even that aggressive as you might think, just because you use your eyes, use your ears. We have a bus connected in parallel, and it's being sent to the main track, and we got this on there. Let's see what it's doing. It's barely hitting 3 dB of compression, and that's, even if it was going over 4, it don't matter because it's in parallel mode. I raised it up from right over here. We boosted it to get more volume. That's why I'm using this, for more volume, and everything is being sent here. So look, let's take a look at the meters. ACN, you're about to blow up your mix and master. Not true, because you need to stop using your eyes. Use your ears. Matter of fact, there's some saturation. That's okay. It sounds good in a mix or a master. Now, if you're hearing it and it's distorting, yeah, you got a problem. We don't really want we don't want distortion, we want saturation. But even though it looks like it's bleeding or peaking, I don't hear it. And I even have evidence on SoundCloud when we boosted the song. I'm sorry, when we posted the song, you don't hear none of that. So it all works fine. So if you want to get more volume and get a little bit more of a warmth, you can set up a bus here and you parallel it to your main track where the waveform is. So if this is something you can work with and something you can use to start at a starting point, this is something that can help you. And if you know someone that's struggling with getting their master good, well, obviously you can always let me know and I can help in that area, or you can send them this video right here. So this is my master chain. Zach sang the song amazing. Song is blessed. It's going out there in the world doing its thing. Whoever might have heard it, our prayer is that it'll bless everybody. Regardless of that, this is how I done the master to it. So I'm ACN. This is ACN Studios. Thank you again for joining me. And I am also going to tell you that I will be start posting 2 times a week. Today is Thursday, so every Thursday and every Monday I will be posting new videos. So it'll be 2 videos a week. So look for that. And thank you for stopping by. I'll see you next time.